Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2014, titled The Pact, Part 2. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens with June Abbott, a crime scene cleaner, receiving a request from a man to clean a room where a suicide has occurred. The victim shot himself, splattering blood on the wall. While cleaning, June notices a tooth stuck in the wall, and as she removes it, she is startled by the man. Meanwhile, Special Agent Terrence Ballard, the original FBI profiler on the Judas killer case, arrives at a crime scene in Southern California where a young woman, Ellie Ford, has been found decapitated. Officer Daniel Meyer tries to block Ballard from entering the apartment, but Ballard overrides him and speaks to Lieutenant Eileen Carver instead. Inside the apartment, they find the words, "He showed me the way," written in blood on the bedroom ceiling, suggesting that the crime may be the work of a copycat killer inspired by the Judas killer. June lives a multifaceted life, working as a trauma scene cleaner during the day and a comic book artist at night. She stays with her boyfriend, Officer Daniel, and also has recurring visions of a mysterious woman, whom she incorporates into her graphic novel. Her personal life is complicated by her strained relationship with her mother, Maggie, an alcoholic and smoker. Daniel criticizes June for shouldering the burden of her mother's problems, which frustrates June and makes her want to leave. However, Daniel apologizes and gives June a ring before she leaves to take Maggie to a 12-step meeting. After doing background research at the police station, Ballard pays a visit to David and June. Ballard shows June pictures of Ellie Ford, and despite drawing the woman from her visions and dreams, June claims to not recognize Ellie. Ballard asks if June has had any contact with Annie Barlow before telling her that she may be a target of the Judas copycat. Not realizing that June does not already know, Ballard reveals that June's birth mother was actually Jennifer Glick, the Judas killer victim whose spirit haunted the Barlow home. Ballard gives June some of Jennifer's possessions, which includes a Bible, before she asks him to leave. Later that night, while alone, June begins to explore the Bible and discovers photos of Jennifer Glick, the Judas killer, and Judas' sister. Suddenly, the lamp starts shaking, and as she tries to steady it, she sees a headless shadowy figure on the wall. The figure vanishes, only to reappear with a head and begin to crawl under her bed, which terrifies her. June notices that the doors in the house are closing by themselves, except for one that opens, and she flees the house in fear, only to realize she's holding a knife. Returning to the house, she finds the shadowy figure gone, but discovers an attic in the room that was previously open. The next morning, June angrily confronts Maggie over lying about her parentage. Maggie confesses that she was Jennifer Glick's sister and revealed she was doing this to protect her. She then steps off to her place of work, Ellie Ford's apartment, to clean up the bloody mess. Later in the night, Maggie is haunted by the ghost of Judas killer, and at the same time, June is attacked by a woman at her home, but it turns out to be a nightmare. Disturbed, June returns to Maggie's house but discovers her dead body. The police arrive shortly, and during the subsequent investigation, Ballard becomes suspicious of June, especially when he learns that she had an argument with Maggie before the murder. As the haunting visions continue, June secretly uses David's LAPD credentials to contact and leave a message for Annie Barlow. In the night, while she is sleeping, the ghost of Judas killer appears to her and begins to touch her face. However, it turns out to be another nightmare. Supernatural activities begin to happen in the house, such as a pen falling on its own and a faucet turning on by itself. June starts hearing noise coming from the attic, and suddenly, she is dragged into a room by a force and the door closed by itself. She hastily grabs a baseball bat, and the frightened June notices the door to the attic opening. June, who has fallen asleep, is awoken by Daniel, who has returned home from work, and to her horror, she sees the living room in mess. June sneaks to Maggie's house, where she also encounters the words, "He showed me the way," written in blood in the living room. She also finds a Bible page in Maggie's medicine cabinet before being caught by Ballard, who had been following her since from the train station. Back in her car, June examines the Bible page and discovers it matches a Bible belonging to Jennifer, and the page highlights a quotation about Judas Iscariot. The next day, June receives a call from Annie Barlow, and while keeping the information secret from Daniel, June tells Annie that she thinks the murders are not the work of a copycat, but that Judas has somehow returned. Although he is a police officer, June's boyfriend Daniel isn't the one she turns to for help when ghostly activity starts plaguing their house. The two of them meet and Annie takes June to visit her psychic friend, Stevie, the young medium who helped Annie with the spirit in the Barlow home. Stevie states that she cannot help, and that she and her brother, Giles, will be moving out of town. She only provides a cryptic warning before her brother, with whom she lives, closes the door. Though the two decide to end the search, Annie agrees to cooperate further when June tells her that she thinks Judas wants her because he may be her biological father. Going back to June's house, the two are greeted by Daniel, and he seems to be troubled when he sees Annie. Inside, the women notice the stairs creaking, and June supposes it wants them to go upstairs. June and Annie head to the attic to conduct a seance and call out Ellie's and Maggie's spirits. The song "Down in the Valley" by the Radiators suddenly begins playing downstairs, and June tells Annie that the song is from her dreams and was playing when Ellie Ford was killed. Suddenly, Annie goes into a trance and says the words, "Pink Room," before she is dragged into the darkness and the candlelight suddenly goes off. As June is trying to turn on the lighter, she notices the spirit of Maggie and Ellie. She finally lights the candle, but the spirits have disappeared. She notices Annie lying unconscious, and after encountering the spirits again, June knocks herself unconscious. When June recovers, Annie tells her that she is going alone to investigate Ellie Ford's apartment, after seeing June's injuries from the paranormal encounter. When June asks her what she meant by the words, "Pink Room," Annie replies that she doesn't know. Meanwhile, Daniel calls Ballard with his suspicions that June may know more than she admits about the case. At the same time, June, who is on the phone with Daniel, finds a newspaper ad for an erotic photography studio named The Pink Room. At Ellie's apartment, Annie takes photos of the record player, which includes a sticker of Texas depicted with the number 713, a Houston area code. Suddenly, someone attacks Annie, and she quickly runs into one of the rooms, but during the struggle, she is stabbed in the back through the door. Before she dies, Annie texts the cell phone photos to June. The next day, June visits the studio and learns that Ellie Ford worked there as a model, though the photographer remains unknown. Back at her home, June receives another visit from Ballard, but is later contacted by Daniel, who tells her that Ballard is actually the Judas copycat. Daniel tells June to get out of the house and informs her that he is on his way with a squad car. On the pretext of getting Ballard a glass of water, June secretly escapes through the back door and grabs a brick. When Ballard is focused on a cabinet which opens mysteriously, June suddenly knocks him out with the brick from behind and ties him to a chair. Shortly, Daniel arrives and puts a gag in Ballard's mouth just as the agent regains consciousness, and he leaves the room to supposedly call the other officers. In the living room cabinet, June sees the ring David gave her spinning on a shelf. June investigates and finds a lockbox. She opens it using 713 as the passcode and discovers erotic pictures of Ellie Ford. June realizes that her boyfriend is actually Ellie's photographer and thus her killer. Daniel returns and notices that June has discovered the truth. He calmly admits to being the copycat killer, claiming that Judas communicates with him and has instructed him to recruit June to carry on the Judas legacy. A vision of the Judas killer emerges from the floor and embraces June, which only Daniel notices. Daniel begins torturing Ballard, but June stops him. He then gives June the knife to stab Ballard, but she uses it to stab Daniel instead, and he retaliates. Ballard breaks free and attacks Daniel, but Daniel hits his injury, making him to back down. A struggle and chase break out between June and Daniel, and she hides in one of the rooms upstairs. While searching for June, Daniel admits that he gave her Ellie's ring to propose, but was too nervous. Daniel tries to kill June by shooting through a closed door, but a door opens by itself, seemingly by Ellie Ford's spirit. June uses the distraction to club Daniel in the head with a bat and then kills him before he can shoot Ballard. Ballard is taken to the hospital while June is interrogated by Lieutenant Eileen, and she is freed from suspicion. Later, June re-examines the attic where she finds the severed heads of Ellie Ford and Maggie Abbott. Some time later, Stevie calls June and revealed that Annie left her a cryptic message, claiming that it is starting again. Stevie then hangs up and the camera pans to the mirror in front of June, showing Judah standing behind her as the movie concludes. Okay guys, that's all the recap about The Pact, Part 2 from 2014. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.